For being here today. This is very exciting since we have the first IWCA community room, and we are very fortunate to have invited many of our sponsors and partners and friends to come over and share some of the new, what is happening new with the coffee.
Yes.
Firedancer Coffee Consultants have been a long-time friend and partners and supporters and all of the above, really. We do appreciate your company, your guidance, and everything that you have done for IWCA chapter members. We are very lucky to have Renee Espinoza today explaining us what the Coffee Assessment Program is. That is a program that was created for IWCA chapter members, so that's a double value for us because it's not very often that people with the experience that you have bring up tools and knowledge and ways to highlight and bring the coffee produced by a woman in another level, and there is much more to explain, but it's not me, it's you, Renee. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Good morning, everybody. As Blanca mentioned, I am Renee. I am co-owner of Firedancer Coffee Consultants. So it is me, along with my partner in business and partner in life, Mike, over there. We are very committed to the IWCA. So our coffee assessment program, what is it about? So kind of a little bit of background. We have had the IWCA cupping every single year for, I don't know, it's been a lot of years. Mike and I took it over, it seems like 15 or so years ago. And what we identified was when we received coffee, right? Not all coffee is good to be testing or ready to be tested, evaluated right now. So we found that a lot of our samples that we received were past crop, right? If we are promoting your coffee publicly, cupping a past crop coffee is not a great show for you. We also were getting samples that were brought to us for roasting that were released, that they're not even really released, right? So we know that the moisture content needs to be at a certain level. These coffees were way too fresh and should have not have been, again, presented to the public. So it doesn't shine brightly on you. We have discovered that a lot of our coffee sisters out there were missing some insights on how coffee experts interpret your coffee. So what are the mechanisms that we use and how do we use it, and ways that we use those tools in the coffee. So we want to make sure that you know what we're doing. And then also cupping skills, right? So this is not just for our coffee sisters and the chapters alone, but I run a coffee school, so I know cupping skills are hard to come by. And then also, and probably the most important thing that we know, is that you all are missing the connection to the market. So I remember one cupping we did in particular that actually is why the coffee assessment program was born. So that particular year, we were in Seattle, and it was the height of the cupping. IWCA was going well. Everything was going well. Mike and I received 95 samples that year from chapters. We went from 1 year, 10 samples. Next year, we got 15. Next year, we got around 40 to 95 samples. We were a little bit mortified and afraid of it, but luckily we were in Seattle, and Atlas Coffee Importers are our friends. We know that they have a beautiful lab. They had 8 barrels of sample roasters there, so we literally Mike and I, and it's funny, they have these glass walls, and the employees there at Atlas were like, oh my gosh, look, Mike, most specifically, Mike had all 8 barrels going at the same time. We were just, and I was following up, we were looking, we were doing everything, and it was just a whirlwind of activity, and we did that for about 8 hours, right? So 95 samples, 8 hours of sample roasting. So come to the cupping. And it's always been that samples did not reach us in time, that we could get them packed up and logged and things. So a lot of times during those cuppings, we would get pre-roasted coffee, right? So coffees that somebody else roasted or whatever came in. Somebody came up and said, hey, Renee, after we have 95 samples listed out already, and they're like, hey, do you mind if we put this coffee up there? And I said, is it women produced? And they're like, yeah. Okay, I think I have space over there on that table, so bring the coffee. Anyway, that coffee had a defect in it. And what proceeded to happen because of not knowing the protocols behind cupping and things like that, that one coffee with that one defect contaminated the whole room. So I literally stood in the middle of the room and I cried because I was devastated. So you all worked so hard on growing that coffee and making sure that it got here. We worked that hard on making sure that it's roasted appropriately, that it's weighed out and cupped just for lack of whatever happened to be gone in an instant. And it was devastating. And Mike and I walked away and we're like, this cannot happen. So you go home, we go back to our office and we look at our calendar. Okay, this region, we're going to expect coffee to come to market here in this calendar months and things like that. So that's something that we track of. So if you're Central South America, I only want to cup your coffee during this time, because after that, this is when your coffee is at its best. And so that goes the same for all of the regions, our growing regions. So that's why we came up with this. So how does it work? So when your green coffee, of course we know about that illustrious moisture level. So when your coffee is ready to be released, when you are ready to give samples to the world, that's when we want to cup your coffee, right? So you send it to us. I need 1 kilo of coffee, and this is what I use it for. 350 grams is for green grading. So today in our protocol, when we are grading green, we find that 350 grams is a representative sample of what's in a bag of coffee. So we take that 350 grams and we have one of our coffee expert friends. They will lay it out on a green mat and they will have their defect books, and we will grade that green coffee to see what we have. So 400 grams is for sampling, is for evaluating. So 4 other Q graders now, will receive 100 grams of coffee. Either they will roast it or we will roast it, sample roast it for them. And they will put it through our cupping protocols and give you an independent, objective evaluation of that coffee. Most likely, we will actually put it through the Tasteify program. So then all of those, all of the findings, all of the scoring is then combined and averaged, and then we send that to you. So 250 grams I keep aside right? So you just never know when a sample roast might get away from somebody, and it happens to us. So then what we have to do is redo it. So I like a little bit extra for those just in case times. Also, what happens with the extras is that if I have somebody else that says, hey, Renee, and this happens to me all the time, roasters, because they know I do this program, roasters will say, hey, Renee, do you have any coffees? I'm looking for a Robusta from Uganda. So I get that quite a bit. So I send the Tasteify reports and said, here's the contact information, and it's beautiful coffee. Again, here's how the coffees are sent out. So if we have 3 evaluators and a green grader, they each receive 100 grams, except the green grader receives that bag representative sample of 350 grams. And again, sometimes this person as well, while we don't need them to be in the mix of them, but sometimes the green grader will actually then roast up a sample and then cup it and then log their cupping findings. So, how it works. We use and we expect when people are cupping that they're using our protocols, right? We want to be as objective and as on board as much as possible. We don't want a evaluator out there saying, oh, I only do 1 coffee or 1 cup. No, we're doing our 5 cups, right? We're adhering to strict protocols. That goes as well as for the sample roasting of that coffee. If you do not, depending on how do you sample roast these coffees? If you don't have an adequate way to sample roast this coffee, we will sample roast it for them. The green grader that receives the coffee, they will study it. They will identify any defects, cuts, chips from machinery, the sours, what we know as the primary and secondary defects of green coffee. That's primarily what they're using for. And so that green coffee then gets an official grading then afterwards. We also evaluate the moisture level of that coffee, and we also evaluate the screen size. So again, this is based on our current protocols for grading green coffee. If you any roaster out there uses the same protocol to approve samples and such. So what are these protocols? So this is what we use to evaluate your coffee. We are making sure that we have, for instance, in my lab, I have a 7.5 ounce cupping bowl. So we use 13 grams of coffee. So each evaluator is, depending on the equipment that they use, hey, come on in. Depending on the equipment they use, they do the same thing. They know how much coffee that they need to do. So we grind it. There's a specific grind level that it needs to be at. We pour the water. Everything in coffee world is between 195 and 205, so that everybody's water is there. It is the same standard water across. We don't do distilled water. We don't do well water. It's precisely calibrated water. We steep, and then we break, and then we skim, and then we start to cup it, right? And we do different levels because we have found that, one of the things that we look for when we're evaluating coffee is defects. Excuse me. So we'll cup of coffee at, at about 12 minutes, and then, about 12 minutes, and then we'll do all the way to room temperature to make sure that we slurp and spit. It's not very ladylike. All right, so once the coffees are completed, and it usually, once I'm able to send the coffees out, it usually takes about a week. So this is not something that, not a process that you can send me the coffee on Tuesday and I receive it and expect to be done. So it takes a time because I have to then, find the network of the 3 evaluators and the green graders are very easy to find. Everybody wants to cup these coffees. But then after that, we have a one-on-one with you. It's a Zoom meeting. We've been up in the middle of the night to do these meetings, and they are, a lot of it is your business evaluation. So things that we talk about. So first of all, we clarify the information that you sent us about this coffee, right? So we want to make sure sometimes jargon and language from one country, we don't quite understand it if it's regional, and we just want to confirm what we're looking at. So we go over the Tasteify report or any other forms that we are using. We want to make sure that you understand what we have found and what we are saying to you right now. So we provide you some insights on any potential problems that we had, that we have possibly found during your, a kind of defect that we are saying, hey, this is from processing. This is from, your fermentation tank. This is from your anaerobic fermentation process. So we identify those and make sure that you understand. And then we also share with you and hopefully steer you in the direction of somebody that is more regional for you that can help you improve your cup quality. Always important. So we talk about the market, right? We want to know how many bags you have to sell. So again, Mike and I in our business, we have clients that we buy green coffee for. So we have friends of friends, and so we want to know that if you have a coffee for sale, we will help you try to sell it. We come across people all the time that say, again, as I mentioned before, that say, hey, Renee, do you have Robusta? Seen any samples of Robusta or from this region or from that region? Absolutely. Here's a Tasteify report, and here's contact information. So we do confirm. We get down to dollars as well. We want to know how much you're selling a pound of coffee for, right? And we find we ask this for a couple of reasons. Number one, and most important, we want to make sure that you are getting what you're worth, right? We have found producers who are not getting the proper amount of money per pound. And we go back to them and say, this is the tool that you use. This should be your asking price according to what we know about the market right now. And this is what you ask for. And we've been successful in getting farmers more money. So again, this is an online platform that we use. So it's called Tasteify from Sustainable Harvest. So what we do, this is the information that I have to put into this, into the platform about your coffee. So it's important, and this will all be documented here soon. So this is the kind of things that I need to know. So I input this in so that when anybody is logging in to cup your coffee, they will see all this information as well. And these are the areas that so this is an actual report. This is what you will look at. And there's a second page to this too. So this tells you here, your descriptors on the coffees are up there. So anything that we have found collectively as a group are listed in here. And this is kind of a mind map on the scores itself. But here you see the individual areas that we look at. And this would actually be 3 or 4 people, depending on if that green grader has decided to cup the coffee as well. But these would be average scores, right? So you're going to be able to see exactly where this is. This is what you will be able to say to any potential buyer of your coffee. You'd be able to say, here's our reports. These are professional coffee evaluators. This is what I'm worth, and that's important to look at.
I have a question. How do you measure density and water activity? Like in the lab?
Well, we don't. We don't. Density is easy to do. We have the graduated cylinders, so we can do density. We have screens. Somebody with a lab will have screens, so actual screens. So we'll put it through and kind of evaluate the screen size. Moisture meters, we all have moisture meters. So water activity is a little bit more difficult. I know in my personal lab, we do not have a meter to look at that. But we mostly actually just go off the moisture. So if we find it to be, a moisture level at, 5-7%, not great. It's not a great place to be. So that's what happens with past crop coffee, right? You lose your moisture. If it's higher, I'm looking at 15 to 18%, that's a problem too. So we know where our moisture is supposed to be, and we will act accordingly. So if it's something that's too high, most likely it won't be evaluated, only because it's not going to get a proper roast behind it. Does that make sense? All right. So this is a program that I am super, super excited to share with you. So Cafe Delas, Kavoya in particular is the parent. Cafe Delas is a program they have. As founder of the U.S. Women in Chapter, I have entered into an MOU agreement with Kavoya, right? So Firedancer will facilitate it. U.S. Women in Chapter, U.S. Women in Coffee Chapter owns the MOU. So one of the things that we will have in our one-on-one meetings is that we will talk about this program. So here is why this is going to benefit you. So we want you to, we encourage everybody to apply for this program, to be part of this program. Kavoya, the team that is running the Cafe Delas program, they are committed to creating equity and building capacity for women farmers, right? They are boots on the ground in your regions, and they want to help, right? And then we signed the MOU. So here's some highlights of this program. So they, every coffee that is in that Cafe Delas program is women producers, right? So you sitting at the tables, this is your competition. So we are supportive of of that. So in the platform, the women farmers, you specifically, you are listed as the business owners in all of their commercial sites. So it's not just, go to Cafe Della's. Across Cavoya as a whole, you are listed as the business owner, the coffee owner. So, so that is very important, because what that does for farmers is gives you not only visibility within the Firedancer network here, but now you have worldwide visibility for your coffee, and there's a lot of producing countries out there. So I think this next thing is most important, is that within the Cafe Della's, you're paid directly for your coffee. That's important, right? So you're not going to, this importer won't give the money to them, who gives the money to them, and it's somehow a little bit less here, get the money to them, it's a little bit less here, and then to you. That's not how, Cafe Della's, Cavoya, parent company, you're paid directly. You are the business owner, you get paid directly. It's very important for you. So they also will add to the market, they will also add a 5-cent premium to the coffee, which then also ends up in your banks. So again, that's really, really important. So they are also committing to you as well, is to help with, again, boots on the ground training in your regions. So that's always been a huge thing for you. So training and education in your particular areas of region has always been difficult for a lot of us, right? Yes, I know my coffee stuff. I can cup, I can grade, I can roast, I can pull shots. However, can I travel around the world and do that? That's not reasonable, right? Cafe Della's, and Cavoya in particular, they have people boots on the ground in your regions. They're going to help you with that. They can help with education training. They can also help with equipment that's needed on your farms. So questions on that? That's a lot. So we're going to be talking more about Cafe Della's. I highly, highly encourage you, we have a panel discussion. I highly encourage you to, with the Cafe Della's program people, I highly encourage you to attend that tomorrow. The panel?
Tomorrow. Here.
Yeah, it should be in here, yeah?
At 8.
Yeah, 8 o'clock, yep. So how to send a sample to us. So the shipper to use is that we prefer you to use DHL. For the simple fact that DHL, of course, is an international shipper, but they work directly with our post office, and we like that. If you send it via FedEx and do not send it correctly, I get the phone calls that I have to file paperwork. I am now listed in the FDA as a coffee importer, just so I can fill out and apply for prior notices and all of that stuff with our government. So if you do FedEx and prior notices are not filed, they will not send your coffee along. DHL, careful. DHL, they like the prior notices, but they kind of work with everything, and they got it all handled, and I'm not getting any phone calls from any government people. So I want you to make sure that if you are using the baggie type, Ziplocs to send us, either double bag them. I will tell you why, is because the pressure going up into the air, into these airplanes coming to me, sometimes pops those bags open if you do a single bag, right? Case in point, we received a box of coffee from a chapter that had, it had 8 coffees in it, right? 6 of those bags popped open, and the green was floating around in the bottom. I cannot do anything with that. So,
Roast it and drink it.
yes. I think we actually sample roasted it to see what was going on, because I looked at the varietals and the density was just about there. So I think we ended up doing it in our lab as the, yeah, it became our house blend. But again, packaging is very important. The information provided by your coffee is very important, and that's one of the things that when you're listing information, that's always been difficult to look at, is that what's your processing method. So we get a lot of information that it was like we have to kind of guess what you mean by your processing terminology. It's not anything that is standard in the industry, as we know. So we kind of work out, and then contact information is also very important, right? So again, if you have people, you have an exporter that you work with already, that's great to know. Their contact information would be great. If you are, and you don't have to worry about any of this, if you apply with Kavoya to be a part of that Cafe Delis program, they handle it. Again, they're multinational. They are boots on the ground in your region. They have people. They will take care of it, and that's beautiful for everybody involved. So, any questions?
I have several.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, the Firedancer program,
Yeah.
that's your company, right?
Yes.
And you give this service of copying and having like all the specs prepared for
Yes.
fairs and things like that. You are just working with Women in Coffee through Della Cafe.
No, you don't have to be part of Cafe Delis.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is whether you want to. If it's so your choice here, which is a beautiful thing for you right now, is that if you decide to apply today to be part of this Cafe Delis program, Kavoya is going to handle all of that for you. So you don't even need to send your coffee to me, honestly. If you are not sure about being part of the program, if it's worth it, but you just want your coffee evaluated, send it to me. I'm happy to do it. So that choice is absolutely up to you. Whatever you find the most convenient for yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, another question?
Yes, but I think that I might contact you directly.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, we got one question over here.
Yeah, how many coppers or how much you evaluate the coffees?
Your team.
Your team, because mainly, for example, I'm a curator too, and sometimes can be harder to calibrate between countries. So try to how you identify the profile between countries, between roasting and cupping, how you calibrate your team.
So we have one protocol here that we follow for sample roasting. Everybody follows the same it's a roast time of so many minutes, and it is a color reading of so all of the Q graders that we work with have that protocol, and that's what we use. Yeah, yeah. So we don't try to get fancy, or don't try like, oh, those citrus notes from Guatemalan coffee, we're really going to bring that. Yeah, we don't. We are not interested in that. The only thing that we are interested in is getting that coffee to a point where we can taste everything that's beautiful about that coffee, but also taste things that are not so great about that coffee. So that's the profile we use.
That's also why we ask for a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because even with that protocol, occasionally we'll find a coffee that maybe you sent it a little too fresh.
Yeah.
Did we get a lot? Okay,
Yeah.
or maybe it's a little past crop.
Yeah.
So that's why I'll do a second roast to still give you an evaluation that every coffee has a home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I could come through with too fresh coffee and roast it a little different to still give you some good information on it.
So all I can add, maybe, that is a kind ask to you guys, is that this program has been of real value for what I witnessed, because I was very lucky to be between the conversation of your team of experts and the producer when I needed to translate, for example, or just be there as a witness of what is the program going on. So I saw, and I assure you that the evaluation and the diagnosis and all the processing that you do with the coffee and the information that you share to the producer or you ask to the producer is an eye-opener to the producers themselves, for the good and not so good. Because for many of the producers, they don't know what they are doing wrong. And the questions that they made are so interesting, like how do they store their coffee when if they're really careful on the harvesting, that there's no green coffee inside, and those details that are very delicate, because a whole harvest can be spoiled by storing it in a bad place. So when they come with the expertise and they go to the producer and they have this interaction, that's the value of the program from my point of view.
Yes.
Because I'm not a copper. But my interest is for the coffee producer, the IWCA chapter member, to really be competitive into the coffee market. Because if we are doing all this effort, coming to the coffee events, put the cupping sessions, do all this and that, and make the connections between the producer and the buyer, we need to ensure that we are in a certain level, and I'm talking about all kind of coffees, right? But at least a clean, decent cup should have and deserve the evaluation that these experts can provide to that. So I know it has been a whole process, a learning process. We came up from disappointments and cryings and on all these things that has happened to us. I will include myself in that because it's really difficult to really pass the message to the producer and say, please send information with your samples. Sometimes we get the samples with not a piece of paper knowing where it comes from or the name or nothing. So it's a real sad story when you have a green neat sample of green coffee and so those are the basics, and there are more. There is more information. So my question to you, Renee, is that I know that we've done part of this learning processing during COVID, which was very useful because everybody was sitting at home and somehow we had the bandwidth to really have the Zoom calls and have these one-on-one. It was really interesting to have chapter members from Cameroon talking to the experts who were sitting in Chicago and Illinois, and that was really exciting because we know it was in real time and the conversation was happening without any interruption, and it was really cool. That was what I really liked, and that is what I really want to follow up and encourage and really improve in that connection between the producer, you guys as the learning and the evaluation factor, and the final buyer. Because at the end of the day, what we need to do is business to the chapter members,
Right.
And a good
Right.
business with transparency, with good English, and if they don't speak English, we translate.
Yep.
We have people who speak French and Portuguese, or if we need to find people who speak Chinese, I don't care, I find it.
Yep, we'll find them.
But the message should reach the producer in order the producer
Right.
to really reach out to the needs of the buyer. So this is very interesting, and
Yeah.
it takes a lot of details, but also takes money, time, and that is the effort that from my side need to move to push the wheel so that we find the right sponsors who can support. Like, for example, sending the samples, it's expensive, right? It's very expensive,
Yeah.
and not getting a result from that effort, from that investment in going to FedEx or whoever,
Yeah.
and have something back, it's really discouraging when you send the sample and know nothing about that, and it happens.
Or it hasn't been packaged correctly, and
Or-
it's like,
yeah. And it, exactly. So there is a lot of details that we need to take care of, but also we need
Right.
to reinforce, improve,
Yes.
and follow up on this
Yes.
valuable tool. We have the Testify tool,
Yep.
which is a wonder.
It's
but
wonder.
also have this team of experts from your side ready to support us, but we need resources, and that is something that we need to sit down and make a plan, a budget, see how much do we need. We need to talk to the chapter leaders.
Yes.
Because they also need to play a very important role in coordinating the producers, see how they can get the discounts at FedEx, for example. I know by experience that the office from FedEx in Guatemala, they have a special discount for coffee producers.
Oh.
Even DHL or
Yeah.
I don't UPS also. So these commercial servers, the providers, they also have their strategies to support whoever is using their services. So we need
Yeah.
to reach out from origin who can help us do it better.
exactly.
But it takes time, and it takes leadership also, and we need to encourage the chapter leaders to really reach out in the proper way,
Yes.
in the
yes.
best way,
Yes.
so that the producer can save time, save money, get everybody engaged, and at the other end of the coffee value chain, have the coffee buyers be sure that they are connected to the right people for the coffee they are looking for. So it's a chain of actions that we need to tune. We
Yes.
need to
Fine tune,
reinforce.
always
So
moving forward. Absolutely.
I'm happy about this presentation because it really, the program for me was something very exciting.
Yes. Thank you.
Because when looking at the faces of the producers, like, oh yeah, right, and it's an eye opener, and for me that's really valuable. Having the experts have that conversation with the producer.
Yeah, so also one of the things that in these 101 meetings and sometimes, and I'm thankful to say not very often, we have disappointed people. But one of the things that we always want to say is always encourage, all coffee has a home. Whether you have reached that 80 score of specialty coffee or not, all coffee has a home. We're going to help you find a home, but here's what you can do to get your coffee past that 80 score, 80 cup score, and into that special market and get more money per pound, right? So that's our ultimate goal.
Yeah. So there is a lot of work, Renee, and I really see this opportunity to
I do.
keep on talking about this program. I cannot thank you enough, Mike and Renee, for the effort. I do remember the day when we had that 95 coffee samples all in one little room. We had only 1 hour slot to taste them all. It was simply crazy. So we try to avoid that, because also, of course, we need to deliver to the chapters and give them and provide them the opportunities to have all this coffee tasted and cupped and have we need to do that. But sometimes it's overwhelming to have that quantity of coffees in one room in 1 hour is like, yeah, right. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. We
We
tomorrow
need
morning.
to sit down.
Yep.
We
We
need
will
to sit
get.
down and
We're going to
yeah.
finalize documentation to get so that you know. Huh?
Yes, we have a question. Thank you very much. You introduced us to this program called Provuya.
Yes.
Is it possible we may have a presentation within this?
Tomorrow at 8 a.m. in this room. There's a whole panel. A lot of their experts are going to be here. Please be here sharp at 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
and we will know more. Very looking
Yes.
much forward to
Yes.
to see that.
Absolutely. It's
Okay,
wonderful.
so
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you so much. So